Hey everyone, it's Henry. I'm a professor of religion and philosophy and a spiritual leader. Please seek professional help with substance abuse issues. So it's day 68. I haven't made a video in a while. Things are going great. It's become a new way that I am in the world. And so this path from day 45 or 60 on now into the third month, it really becomes who I am. I do think about alcohol in the more the abstract. It's like, what am I going to do at the end of 90 days? There's various options. I could roll over into another one. I could go for 100 days. Could just make the decision to totally never ever drink again, but that really depends on other people that I'm with, people in my family, to some extent. So I am thinking about that in the abstract. What is the best model? I'm continuing to learn about alcohol, and one of the things that I have really looked at is alcohol use by deciles. We've talked about this a little bit before. Alcohol use if you divide the population into 10 equal groups, so the first decile doesn't drink at all, the second doesn't drink at all, the third doesn't drink at all. So 1/3 of Americans just never take alcohol. And there's a lot of people that fit in that category. So 18 plus, a lot of kids these days do not drink. Some religions disapprove of it, and a lot of 18-year-olds have not. A lot of people who are alcoholics no longer drink. A lot of people who had problem with alcohol don't drink. People on certain medications can't drink. A lot of older people don't drink as well. I think of people in nursing homes, older people just don't drink, maybe because they've survived. And then you get another group, fourth, fifth, and sixth decile, that drink less than one drink per week. And even the fourth one is like once a month, once every 2 months. So about 2/3 of Americans just really do not drink alcohol in any appreciable amount. That is very interesting and something I didn't realize at first. And then we get to the seventh is an average of 2 per week. And then the eighth, ninth, and 10th, so it gradually goes up. Eighth is 6 drinks per week. Ninth is 15 drinks per week, so two drinks per day. But the 10th, the 10th decile drinks an average of 74 drinks per week, or 10 per day. So that's a big amount, and we've talked about that. Alcohol being 5 to 10% of the alcoholism being 5 to 10% of the population. So to be honest, what struck me is that I was in the ninth decile. I was having somewhere between 10 and 20 drinks per week, usually 10 to 15 on some weeks, broken up over many days, so never having more than 4 in any day. So that's within the safe guidelines of most governments and health agencies. But nevertheless, I was sort of surprised that I was in the top 80 to 90% of people who drink alcohol. And so that was a surprise to me, that I drank so much more than the average and that so many people just did not drink. A lot of my friends enjoy alcohol, so I guess it's a part of who and where I was socially. So that might be something you want to look at if you're in the 8th, ninth, or 10th decile. And philosophically, spiritually, religiously, this means something like you don't need to be in these top deciles to enjoy life, because the people who are 2/3 of Americans, can have perfectly fine lives without this. It's not an essential aspect of life. Another aspect is that when you give up the crutch, the psychological crutch, the emotional crutch, that is your sort of go-to activity, your go-to emotional stance. Then when you give that up, you finally begin to really discover who you are. So for instance, now that I'm not drinking, I'm not sure I necessarily always want to go out to a certain bar or club with friends if there's going to be no drinking, which makes me think, oh, the alcohol has been too much of a part of it. So that's been a learning experience for me. Dr. Daniel Amen, A-M-E-N, says that even a small amount of alcohol used regularly, just a few drinks a week, it can have effect on the white matter, especially of the brain. He is a brain scientist. He's done, I think, over 200,000 scans of people's brains. And what he says is that alcohol, even in small amounts, can affect the actual physical structure of the white matter of your brain. So he himself does not drink, and I think this really is something I need to think about in terms of what alcohol does as a moderate drinker, a light to moderate drinker. And spiritually, if you don't have the best possible brain, you're not going to have the best possible experience in life. And so that is really an argument for me doing this 90 days to make it permanent. Dr. Amen also says that any amount of alcohol tends to add to cancer risk. So even light to moderate drinking, not particularly good for the risk. There was a study coming out of Harvard University in 2023 stating that light to moderate drinker can see some lowering of risk, a very small amount. But at the same time, anything over 14 drinks would add to the risk of cardiovascular issues. So 0 to 14 might lower cardiovascular heart problem risks in some people, a small amount, and then but yet after it causes more cardiovascular problems. So you have to ask yourself, alcohol is a substance that can damage the heart, and yet smaller amounts maybe don't. And one thing they theorize that if people who have a lot of anxiety or stress can use alcohol to lower that stress, then perhaps that's the reason. But again, the lowering of risk is very small, and it might only apply to some people. So for highly anxious people, alcohol would act as something that is something that they can use as a tool to lower their stress. But then again, you could say other ways. And perhaps only certain kinds of people see a lowering of cardiovascular risk. And so maybe the average person doesn't. Other studies that came out in 2023 also deny this. They don't see any benefit to the heart from light to moderate drinking. So there is no consensus on this in 2023. And even if there was, it's very, very small. And it's also, you have to add in other risks, increased risks for cancer being one. I've also greatly limited my use of caffeine over the past month. To be honest, I am having a quickly brewed 1 cup of tea in the afternoon. So sort of a weak cup of tea in the afternoon. I only brew it for 20 or 30 seconds. But I can feel the caffeine. I don't feel a need at all in the morning for caffeine. And this is very interesting. Researchers in caffeine have said that a lot of people who really enjoy that first cup of coffee, it's become a meme, it's become a joke. People aren't human until they've had their first cup of coffee. And once they have it, they feel really back to themselves. They feel alert and awake. I have found I don't need any caffeine in the morning at all. I don't even want it. I just slept a good 7 or 8 hours. I'm getting that great sleep because of no alcohol and no caffeine. But a lot of people want that caffeine. And what the experts are saying, and I agree with them, is that they are just staving off the withdrawal from caffeine, so that they're not feeling good. They're in withdrawal. They're not waking up from a great night of sleep. They're going into withdrawal from not having caffeine in their system. So for me, the question is, how much is the use of alcohol just a staving off of the feelings of withdrawal and your brain wanting to return to a normal level? So in the end, for me, it's become clear with these 90 days that the brain, the part of our body that really houses our spirit, is very delicately tuned. It's very powerful, the human brain. It's very capable of having great emotions and great happiness. And it's very rugged. It's very strong. It can endure many things. But one, it's very easy to disrupt by certain things. Taking alcohol, for example, other addictive substances. We think of just drinking alcohol as this minor, small thing, but it is actually something that very much can disrupt the chemical functioning of the brain. And that is something I've really become aware of, that it's not just a minor thing. It creates long-lasting changes in the brain, in the mind. And we see what a lot of alcohol does to alcoholics and other drugs, how it ruins their lives, ruins their humanity. And it's really hard to just be a light to moderate drinker and not feel some of those negative effects. Another thing that I have been thinking about the past few weeks as I'm heading towards the end of 90 days is just how many people I know personally who have had major or minor problems with alcohol. And this includes especially women. Women are less genetically able to metabolize the alcohol. And I've seen many times where women have got into behavioral issues with the use of alcohol. So it's really not a friend to women. It's not a friend to men. So severe, heavy use creates severe problems, and moderate use can create moderate problems. It's not always this happy drug that people like to think it is, even in social situations. Again, and then the other thing I've been thinking of is, how do I deal with social situations? It seems like it's sort of the price you have to pay for being part of the social fun. And yet on the other hand, it seems that the social fun, sometimes in these meetings with friends, it seems the excuse for drinking. And then what do you do when you drink? Are you just talking? Why can't you talk without it? What are you talking about? So I'm again questioning the whole social aspect of alcohol. So I think there's a lot for you to learn in 90 days. I hope you've taken this opportunity. I think it's going to be a little bit different for everyone, but I would say keep learning about it, because I think the more I've learned about alcohol, the less I want to take part in it.